All right, Nick, it's Mother's Day weekend. You and I'm sure there's a lot of others who, their mothers are elsewhere. I, however, get mother in town. Has
Yeah.
advantages at sometimes, disadvantages at other times.
Yeah.
Advantage Mother's Day weekend. You get to mail off a gift. All right, that
Yeah,
could
that's
say that
true.
could be a
Hey, get the
disadvantage.
you
Could
do
say
you
it's
do
a
get the
right.
mail one.
You don't know, right? I could have mailed one, I guess. Inside of her gift or is a negotiation for a second gift. You got to mail off your gift. I got a second gift that I get to do. That stack this week. Hey,
Oh,
while you're at it, why
is
don't you
that
go ahead and
during or
detail my
after
car?
is that before or after work? We're trying to figure out when we're
That's what we
doing
got to
this.
figure out, right? Like, I'm like, Mom, what are we doing here? You already got one gift. You're going for round two, but
I
this
know.
is Mom's card. Mom and I have traded for gifts like this all the time because as a
Yeah.
mobile detailer, I would love to give my guys. Mine was always pizza on Fridays. Here with the
Yeah.
crew here, it can vary from different types of foods, what people are in for that week or whatever. But back
Yep.
then, it was always pizza. Mom was at Chase Bank working her way through there. You can understand somebody gifted in sales can then negotiate her son to get a
Yeah.
second gift to throw some stack on her car, right? Because she's seen the
Yeah.
videos. She knows it's quick, it's easy. She goes, why don't you just get taken care of?
Yeah. Because all you gotta do is just slap it on, right? You
Yeah.
gotta yeah, no, I mean, look, it is there is a plus that I don't get the, family guilt into, doing things to their car. I just get the constant text messages. "What's
Mm.
this? What's that? What should I do? Who should I call?" It's like, you go through the car wash. Can we all just stop with the rigmarole here? But, I do have, my dad who's got a sports car, got full PPF. I hooked him up with somebody to get full PPF where he lives. Let me tell you a funny story about that. They come and visit after the PPF's done. I checked up on the PPF, got the full walk around. It was all good to go. Hey, my stepmom goes, I saw this one part by the underneath the fender lip, and it's concerning me. And I go, oh yeah. So this is in my own house, right? I go, well, if it's too bad, I'll walk you through how to knife that piece off. It's all good. Stuff like that happens. Yeah, they said I should come back for a checkup. I go, did you do that? Uh-uh. I go, well, when you get home, go back for the checkup, point it to them, and they'll just cut the piece off that worries you. It's not a so yeah, that's we all deal with family members, friends. If you've lived in an area your whole life, that's definitely, when I was in my hometown detailing, it was a lot more expectation. What you would do, all the people that try to get in contact with you. But there's a benefit to that. I out here I didn't have anybody who could really get me into business, right? And most if you've lived in a place your whole life, like you can get into business overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first part of her gift was she wanted to go eat this place called Savoy, known for cinnamon rolls, like 100-year
Hi,
old
I'm
place
in.
restaurant. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Love
Like
cinnamon rolls.
it's third generation. Her brother's college roommate, Bill, right? So you got Tom and Bill at OU. Sounds great, right? Like, what
Yeah,
and
I'm
that's
in.
that was his family. So our family still loves to go there. It's sort of one of those
Yeah, I
places
would love
for
to go to
us.
that place.
We
Again,
could,
another place I haven't been invited to in Tulsa.
but you get some great fried chicken though, and some good tacos,
I
and
did get some great friends.
you
Look,
hadn't made it
there's
to
no doubt.
cinnamon rolls yet, Nick.
And we had to go to 52 restaurants one night because you didn't know who was open and who was reputable anymore. So yeah, we've had quite the experience in Tulsa.
All right, so I'm pulling in. And we do. I think you do this. You've talked about it. Like people walk through and look at cars, right? I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
even have to walk through. I'm pulling up, and I find a spot. Now I normally like to, but I find a spot that's decently not. We
yeah,
got enough
yeah,
room,
yeah.
right? Well, as I'm pulling up, it catches my eye, and I go, "Wow, that tire shine's impressive." And it wasn't a like a crazy, like I went, whoa. Like I first of all to just see a tire with tire shine. And then second, I
Yeah.
once I pulled in, I looked over. Like I was starting to check it out because I was like, okay. this guy takes care of his car, right? Like you can
Yeah.
tell the people that don't go through car washes and those that do a lot with the wheels because you can see that flat
Yes.
marks of the
Always.
brake dust, and then you can see uneven tire shine, right? Because it's very very difficult to put tire shine on a tire as it's moving while everything's wet, right? You got a lot of variables, different size of tires, all that stuff, right? So it's
I have a
very
crazy
difficult to
question.
do.
Have they automated that yet?
Oh yes, yes. It's you got a cylinder that goes around. You spray some stuff like there's an arm that pushes out. But as we know, you got so many different sizes of lips. You got size of tires.
Yeah.
So it, it's very hard. It's very difficult to get it even all the way around. So when you see it, you can actually go, "Wow, that guy actually did it himself."
Hey, you guys are living in the year 3000 over there at the car washes in Tulsa.
Man,
I'm not sure
no,
we
that's
have
my
that here. That's
point.
why I'm asking. I don't really
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, he did it himself. So because it's so difficult to get it even, and so you can literally see if somebody evenly got around, probably means it's a great chance he did it himself. Okay, so I'm
Yeah,
tipping my
agreed.
hat already. But then, do you ever? I know there's detailers that have gone like they're embarrassed about maybe somebody might say something about they didn't do this right.
Yeah.
Remember that conversation? Do you ever get like I looked over and I go, wait, I didn't touch up my tire shine this morning. Like, I
Hey,
washed it
one of
yesterday, but then I drove to Oklahoma City. I
yeah.
touched up the wash when I got home, but I didn't touch up the tire shine. And I go, oh shit! Like that guy outdid
Yeah,
me.
that'll happen, like, for me, it's like missing a spot on the windshield, when I did the windshield, and I just wasn't as thorough with a glass cleaner, which that's one of those things that really gets to me, but yeah, I think especially if you pull in next to somebody or near somebody that's got their stuff dialed in, yeah, you start to pick apart your own stuff like, "Oh, man, I should have just, given it 5 seconds." The one thing that bothers me is bigger SUVs, probably even on your Nissan, the thing that you see is when I forget to back the vehicle up and get the very, very bottom of the tire, that does bother me. And again, that's just like caught up in a moment, so to speak. Like I just forgot. I got to the end of the detail and I forgot to just back it up a few inches and hit it with the tire brush again. Yeah, that bothers me when I see it. There's no doubt.
That's one of those on when we used to do the community pub and people would talk about things that they don't do on their own car that they always do on
Yeah.
somebody else's car. That's one of those that I'd say for me, like especially in the winter, if I'm in the garage, I don't always back that thing. I don't. I'm not going to lift up the door. I'm not going to try and back up. I just kind of
Yeah, I
do
mean,
the best
sometimes
I
there's just
can. And
limita I mean, sometimes there's always limitations, right? Like, I'm not gonna if it's we got a little bit of rain out here the last couple weeks. If I'm doing something in the shop and I gotta, for whatever reason, would have to pull it outside to finish, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna have to kind of finish it right here and hope that everything works out. But like you said, in the wintertime, you're getting bad weather there. Are you gonna open the door, pull the vehicle completely out, get the spot? It's gonna be hard, right? But
yeah.
now, look, we're in that time of year. It's the best time of year to detail your own car or professionally detail, and you got to enjoy it. And because the bad weather's coming again, so you got to enjoy these next few months.
hmm And mine wasn't bad, right? It just wasn't since I took a trip. I'd gone about, let's see, 90, 100 miles or so to Oklahoma City, went around there for a little bit, came back. So, call it 250 miles or so, right?
Yeah,
With
so
quick
you could,
shine. That's my go to, right? It still
yeah.
had shine, still
So you're,
everything. Look, it just
yeah. So your tires, it's just a personal thing.
Yeah, just personal.
Yeah.
Mildred posted in the group. Love, I do the quick shine route for at home, right? I can slap it on and go. It's always my go-to. Mildred goes more like you. He's the ultra dress guy. Now, Mildred's
Yep.
dilution is where I find interesting. So many people are going to put out what dilutions they like, which they already started. It's the greatest part about ultra dress, and people
Yeah.
can compare. Well, I go 2 to 1 at here, and Mildred lists what 1,200 miles in 4 days, and you just go,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
like
and rain and look, man. I for we don't do a lot of the what you would call real tough salesmanship on the podcast. I don't think it's the right place to do it. V2 Ultra Dress, if you don't have it, that is one of those products that I go, it fits everybody. You can dial in exactly the dilution you like. It goes on well and it lasts. And again, for those of you that have never worked with a highly dilutable dressing, I want to say this. You'll look at the gallon pricing and a lot of people go, that's too much for a dressing. Well, in a lot of cases, that's making 3, 4, even 5 gallons of product for you to use. And if you haven't been trained in that, which a lot of people haven't, I was lucky that when water based dressings came out, there was a highly dilutable one that I used. I think a lot of people run away and go, well, that's too expensive. And it goes, no, when you break it down, it's actually less per gallon to use Ultra Dress than almost any type of dressing you can use, because most people are probably going to settle into that 3 to 1, right? Somewhere around that 2.5 to 4.5. So let's say 3 to 1 on average. And don't forget, you can dress engine bays, which you can, if you just want a matte engine bay, you go 10 to 1, man. You're going to get a perfect matte engine bay that just looks clean without any crazy shine. You're talking about a lot of use off of that type of product. And I think that's something people always misunderstand when they see a price, but a dilutable dressing and finally getting our V2, that V2 is pretty special.
Hmm. Yeah, you did mention that about price. It isn't. I guess I don't think about that too much, but if you did a three to
Well, no,
one,
because we don't charge you at HQ. I mean, you get all the benefits of all the product there. I've been having our team like, hey, what's he using back there? Let's get that off his paycheck.
3 to 1 is 4 gallons. I know that some people are gonna go, yeah, and some people go, oh, that
Yeah, yeah.
not
No,
everybody
it's
gets the dilution ratio game.
it's a
Like
lot. I mean, so look, what's the price on that? It's what, 79.99, I think. So you're talking about $20 a gallon for tire shine that lasts. That you had a guy like Mildred take on a 1,200-mile road trip. He got rain one of the days that he was driving around, and he gets back from the trip, and you don't even have to really dress the tires if you don't want. I mean, that's the thing, is like dressing is, you and I say this, and I know our crowd gets tired of hearing it, is one of the most misunderstood chemicals, because people still think this one has silicone and that one doesn't. That's probably the number one. People don't realize what they mean is solvent or water based, not which one has silicone. They all have silicone, unless it's body shop specific. And even that, I've said before, trust me, not always true. But I always say this is like, dressing is one of those things that even some of my guys I have to go through a re-education with. And I'm like, why didn't you dilute? I'll go see like a car. I'm like, why are the tires so shiny? Because we mark the bottle. I'm like, this is exactly how much dressing in the rest water. What happened? Oh, I poured too much. I said, you could have just poured it back in. Yeah, I guess I could have. I'm like, because I'll have my guy go, some of my guys go, why are the tires so shiny? I'm like, what'd you use? Well, Ultra Dress. Where'd you fill the line? I kind of overfilled this one. Well, you put more shine in there, dude. So to me, it always feels like tire dressing is one of those things you have to constantly go through an education, because maybe somebody's new, they haven't been exposed to what different types of dressing. So I think it's kind of an interesting thing I've seen in my career.
it is. Another guy that drove this weekend, couple 100 miles. Our Miata Porsche guy drove around, took his Porsche out for a cruise. Loved seeing this. Says,
We play real loose with the word Porsche guy now, huh? Huh, Billy? Real loose.
but had a ton of bugs all over the front, and he didn't pull the maneuver of let me just get a water hose out and spray it down. But he grabbed some hyperclean bug, and he says he didn't even crack open the pressure washer. Right? I just grabbed a regular hose and cleaned it about 90% perfect. So
Yeah.
he didn't go spray the water hose first, but he did get the water hose later, right? Porsche
Yep.
guy always loves the water hose. Great job, Billy.
Yeah.
Uh, but here's the idea, because we're going to get into something else where people start asking questions. And I know Billy probably did, but maybe didn't. There's going to be people that grab our bug cleaner and they're going to go, well, should I spray down with the water hose first? How hot should it be? If I do have a coated car, does it matter, right? Like we say things, but there's going to be people that just do stuff that they want to do, right? Like
Sure.
we've said dilution on different things, but we get messages of people going, "Hey, I diluted this way. What's my problem?" Well, I don't maybe change your dilution the way like there's going to be
Yeah.
people that just grab the bug spray and go spray. Do I think that they're going to have damage? Do I think at some point in time somebody's going to message us and go, "Hey, your bug spray damaged my car"? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But we
Yeah, we
have
haven't
had
seen it to
people
this
that have
point.
tried, like they've
Yeah.
tried to go, "Hey," and then we go, "Well, let's talk through it." But you get to these moments where I can appreciate Billy's post because he's really bragging about the bug cleaner. But you
Yep.
go into this moment where should we, or well, then what if we don't? And all this falls into this detailing stuff of hocus pocus and when stuff
Yeah.
appears and well, what cost it?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we haven't had it happen, but we always tell people, I mean, I wouldn't spray any chemical on scorching hot paint. I don't really care what it is. I mean, if your panel's so hot that, you kind of touch it and your hand burns, then you know what? Go ahead and spray it down with some cool water. That's okay. That is going to dilute the chemical at some point, but there's just always I'd rather be safe than sorry. I think you and I believe that in our career. We believe that now talking to people as people making the chemicals, and it's okay. It's fully okay to look at one another and go, best case scenario, it's been in your garage for a while. You went in and grabbed a bite, you had it in your garage, it's cooled down, you could use the bug cleaner right on it. Great. But if it's 100 degrees outside and it's been sitting out in your driveway in the middle of the summer in the sun, it's okay to spray it down with the water first. Okay. You just got to understand, maybe put a little bit more bug cleaner to eat through all the water dilution, and you'll be good to go. The other thing is, you could also take something like Eco One
Hold on. Let me
and
pause you
put
there.
that
Let me
down.
let me pause you there because we talked about dilution earlier, and there's times where people will go, "Hey, I sprayed 3 times," right? And they'll measure out the amount of times.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
So I'm glad you said that. Hey, if you do rinse off the car before, you will need to put some more product out there if the car already
Sure.
has water on it.
By the way, that's a true of a wheel cleaner. I mean, something that we
Good.
don't think about. That's a true of, if you rinse your car first, then you put car soap on. You're going to dilute the car soap a little bit because there's water on the surface. This is for anybody's chemicals, by the way. This is not, unique to us. It doesn't get talked about,
No,
nearly enough, which is
pretty
why you're
basic.
bringing it up. Yeah, I mean, but there's a lot of people that misunderstand that when there's water introduced prior to a chemical, then so let's say you're a guy that always rinses your wheels first. Let's just use an example. And the normal wheels you come across, you could do 4-to-1 with TRX, tires and wheels all together. You don't need to decontaminate these in this example. Hey man, I might go 3-to-1 if I'm a rinse guy. Just give yourself a little more power because the water on the surface is going to dilute your cleaner a little bit. You're talking about pennies anyway. So just help yourself and understand what your process is, and then understand the dilution after your process is established.
If you don't see all the bugs came off, maybe you spray more bug cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah, people, what, one thing that a lot of us detailers don't like to do is to go over things. Say, "Hey, I'm going to do this again." Like that gets into people, but you and I also have been the victims in our own career where we've bought a bug cleaner, and the original bug cleaners that were out, those could like torch your face off. Those were so strong. I mean, you remember those. You would like spray a side mirror that was a little hot, like springtime hot, and you would just see it flash. It'd be like, psh, and you go, "Oh God,
Damn
I'm
it.
right. I'm grabbing the DeWalt." I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. So I tell people, and I think most of the people listening to us, especially if you're just getting a start taking care of your own stuff or you're taking care of a customer's car, sometimes, man, spray the water first. If it's hot and you're in a situation you can't get to shade or don't have time to let it cool down, it's okay. Give it a little rinse. Get the panel cooled down a bit.
Yep. But Billy, we do love the post. Thanks for the shout out. Appreciate it. Had a guy though I saw in another group that also had some bugs, had a different situation than Billy, right? He's questioning, he's put it in a group, different group than ours. He wants to know what's the best window cleaner because he's got bugs that won't come off. Haven't clay barred it yet. I guess that's an option too.
No, it's not.
How about bug cleaner? Like this
Yeah.
is why like it's too basic to talk about dilutions. I get it. What about a bug cleaner? If you got bugs, right? Like it is
Well, let
interesting.
me ask you
It
let me
is
ask you a
interesting.
question though. Do you think we've gone, because all of us, even those of you listening, you go to groups and you watch people try to outsmart the business all the time. Like, oh, you don't need that. I don't know, man. If you live in a city that gets pretty heavily, to the point where you're talking about clay barring bugs off, which means you probably I mean, clay barring bugs would never occur to me. Not a big bug city. Okay. It's just not what we're going to go through. I mean, even when you kind of tell me, like, hey, did you test out bug? It's like, Marty, I got like 2 minutes here that we get some bugs. Maybe if somebody comes down from the northern part of the state, we'll run into some bugs. Like, it's not what I battle every day. It's not in my wheelhouse, right? But we get them from time to time. There is this big thing that we talk about all the time where everyone thinks it's like a conspiracy to use the chemical designed to do the thing. That some company's trying to get over on you, the detailer. So take this wheel cleaner, spray it all over the front. That's your bug cleaner. Then something bad happens, and the person's back a month later, like, hey, what are these spots on the front of the car? I don't know what this is. And you and I can see it, and it's like you can see the spray pattern. And then somebody down in the comments goes, what'd you use on the front? Oh, I use this product, which is a wheel cleaner. You've kind of said it. Why would glass cleaner even come up? It's because that mentality is so rampant of I'm just going to use something else, because why would I carry a bug cleaner? But if you're in a bug heavy area, having a well formulated bug cleaner is extremely valuable, because one that's too strong is going to torch a car eventually, or a side mirror or whatever. And a well made one like ours with a polymer base is always going to keep you safe. And so you scratch your head and you go, this is where it came from, though. He just thought, this is the chemical I have. Walk me through how to use my glass cleaner. It's like, no, I'm not going to walk you through that. That's not that's not the same thing. But I think that's the root of it, don't you?
And I'm hoping he, is have I while I'm cleaning a windshield seen a little bug residue, sprayed some glass cleaner to go, hey, a little bit of glass cleaner, sure, I can clean some bugs. Like I can clean up. Will it work? It will work. Like I
Yeah,
think
but
when it caught me off
you wouldn't
guard,
sit there and scrub the paint with
there you
glass
go.
cleaner.
I wouldn't think, hey, I've got bugs on a windshield. I need a glass cleaner to clean bugs off.
No, because and by the way, the first thing I would think to myself is, most of the time when I grab my glass cleaner, I always grab my glass cleaning towel. So I just like pair them together mentally. It's like, second nature to me. I very rarely grab my glass cleaner and don't have my the towel that I like to use on glass. So now I'm going to funk that towel up to clean up those bugs.
Have I? I can say I have. Like
Well,
if
hold on,
I'm
but you have
at
it the
the
whole
end of a
windshield.
detail, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
end of a detail, and if I miss something.
Yeah, but you're talking about minor stuff. So let's
Yeah.
clarify what you mean. I There's this little tiny bug splatter at the very tippy top of the
Mhm.
windshield that I
Mhm.
maybe missed with the pressure washer, or missed with the bug cleaner at the beginning. And so there's a little spot, and I take care of it. And a lot of times when you and I take care of it, and many of you out there, you kind of just spray the glass cleaner and you wipe normal and it comes off. You don't go like back and forth real hard, because then at that point you're looking around going, what else did I miss?
Mhm.
So you would start looking around, but most of the time it's just like little minor stuff, just like with the front end of a car. If you really get hammered by bugs, and I think I've shared this photo where we just had like a monstrous like bug situation on an Escalade one time, that inevitably you always kind of just miss something. We're all human, right? And then you would go, okay, during my wash process, I'm going to make sure to go over this area, and that little residue is going to come off, right? To be the same, what you're kind of talking about is like, there was a tiny little thing on the windshield and I got it off during wiping the glass down. But to say glass cleaner is going to take care of
bugs. Yeah.
300 bugs on the
Yeah.
windshield. That's not your move.
So you question sometimes what goes through somebody's psyche or their thought process, right? Like, why did they choose this? Here's another post I saw that I wondered, well, okay, well, why did he choose to hand polish and set his ground on, like, okay, well, if I wash and clay bar a car, then I hand polish the car because I clayed it. So catch up to this story. There's this guy in this group. He's telling and kind of catching us up with this video, and he's showing a scratch by the top of a headlight, and he's saying, kind of setting up the scratch, and he goes, "Listen, when I wash and I clay a car, I polish it. I think you're gonna go, great
Great.
job, right?
Yeah.
Like, as we've talked about, clean, even no matter how good you do it, could you put some marring in the paint?
Yeah.
You could, you could. So is it the safest to just go over, and especially if you got a soft clear coat, got a dark car, the safest would be to go and polish the car. Now this guy goes, I only hand polish. He does not
Man,
bring
that's a
out.
lot of work.
Bingo. Yeah, I think there's some people that think, hey, getting a polisher, and let's say I don't have a generator, I'm a guy that I've got to use somebody's electricity, or I'm going to clay my own car, and I in my mind go, hey, I can just quickly hand polish this real quick. There is some people that believe it's the same to throw polish on a car with your hand as it is
No,
with the
I don't
tool.
believe that.
There
You're
is.
saying it. Yeah. I mean, I look. I would say that in a world where you can grab a very cheap polisher at a lot of tool stores, even online, let's say sub $200, some of them sub $100. I would not be in the hand polish game. I just I can't even tell you the last. I mean, I'll do like a nook and cranny. I can't get in with a polisher, like a little tiny spot. But I mean, can you remember the last? Did you ever? I never hand polished anything, so
You
I'm not.
you eventually got out of it, me, because I'll just go that word glazed, right? Like, I think once I progressed, and I think once technology progressed to where, you know, did I used to, and did I sometimes wax a car by? Sure. And
Well, no,
then
you
for
wax the
me,
car
that,
by hand, but that's not
Mhm,
polishing.
I agree. But then could you sometimes think, at least I mean, so I understand the, like, I can just go and hand do it real quick because I can just throw the polish on,
Man,
and then the
with
polish
today's
is going to
technology, I
do the
think
polishing. But that's
yeah,
not
I
how
think
the
that's
technology goes. Yeah.
yeah. No, I could understand like late '90s, early 2000s having some confusion. But this is where you kind of say it's like I feel for this guy because I can't imagine the amount of number one work. I mean, that's not easy work. I mean, hell, there were some waxes in my life that wasn't they weren't easy work. They were poorly formulated. Now that I got a little further in my career and understood, yeah, that thing was just it was terrible. But I think a lot of people, again, I kind of say this. I don't know whether I read something like this, that you saw or whatever. There's some of this stuff I just feel bad for people. I go, man, this is just not necessary. And by the way, it doesn't mean you got to jump to a $700 polisher either. You know what I mean? It's like if I felt like it's either do this or you got to go out and spend $1,500, I could understand where I go, okay, yeah, most people aren't going to go spend 1,500, but it's like some of this is you're doing this consistently instead of spending $125. Like in 2025, that money, $125 isn't that much money in business and working on your car. It's really not. So you kind of look at this, and I bet you some people are listening to it probably feeling the same way I did. I just can't even remember the last time I even talked to somebody. So he's got a scratch, which obviously is not going to be handled by hand polishing anything. Did he think he was going to take the scratch out?
So it's the customer, right? So the customer goes, hey, uh, it's still there, right? There's this scratch on the top by the headlight. And he says, well, I told the customer it's not going to buff out, right? Like, And the guy goes, well, it's still there. He goes, okay, well, he wouldn't have come out with the machine unless I put compound on and polish. And you go, you kind of get into that moment and you go, oh, did he, was there not enough discussion about what was really going to happen if he's going to clay? And he's just polishing by hand because in their mind, just, hey, I got to just polish it back out because I just got to make it brighter, right? I got to polish it, like,
Sure.
but not thinking that he really needs to hand polish, machine polish it. Or I wonder, Nick, here's where it gets even more confusing. There are people that go hand polishing means that you use an orbital, and buffing means that I'm using a high speed. So when you're talking compounds, you got to go one way, and then doing it by hand just means I'm just kind of with like a little DA kind of just vibrating. Don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think you and I have said this before. One of the things we all can agree upon, anybody out there that's been doing this any length of time, terminology becomes a
It's
problem.
conf-
It becomes a problem. We don't have a basic level of terminology that's used across the internet. It used to be it was passed down by word of mouth. Now it's being passed through the internet. You see a lot of people, again, let's go back to, I need a dressing that doesn't have silicone in it because silicone slings. That's a terminology problem, right? It's a miseducation problem, I understand, but it's also a terminology problem. They're using the word silicone instead of water or solvent, but it's been passed down since you and I started this terminology issue with the word solvent or water. And it's the same when it comes to a polisher. It's the same with a one step or a two step or a rotary or a DA, or like you say, one of those things you put a bonnet on. What are those things called? The
Those
the
big
the
old
the
two-handed
machines.
ones.
Yeah, like, or go back to the cyclo.
Ah, still
That
one of my favorites too.
introduced all new
Mhm.
types of stuff as well. And so you really, forced DA versus DA. Well, if you don't know what forced rotation is, you just think that the flex forced is the same as the flex DA. And it goes, no, one's forced, one isn't. We all have to agree, and no one's going to fix this. Let me be clear. The internet is so vast, and so many people are saying so many different words, and that was happening before the internet, by the way. It was just happening slower because of word of mouth, that this is never going to get resolved. So it does become hard to help somebody when you realize they're not speaking the right terminology. And sometimes we even have that when people ask us questions. I feel bad because I go, "Hey man, I just kind of misunderstand what you're trying to get at." So if you get enough questions like you and I do, you'll notice that terminology is a huge issue.
Yep. Absolutely. Here's one that where you question the terminology. Any good snow foams that actually dissolve majority of the dirt on the car and don't leave water spots.
Wow, he wants to get a lot accomplished.
Snow foam. Well, what does that right? You got all different variables of soap.
Yeah,
What
you
does
got all
that
kind of,
mean?
yes.
You want it to dissolve the dirt. What does that mean? And
Yep.
then you want it to not leave water spots. He's like, hey, my buddy recommended this. Turns out it left some water spots on the windows. Huh? Like,
Yeah, like water spots, meaning like it kind of dried and you can
they
wipe them
don't know.
off, or
Right? They don't know.
when we say water spots in our world, it means I got to use an acid based something. I got to maybe polish the glass. There's a terminology issue. Here's something interesting to build on what you said. So we've been telling everybody who's going down this touch free world of snow foams, and I know there's some ones that have gained popularity because certain companies are bringing them into the country, and I'm all for them. You and I are all for the idea. You and I are all for how they work. We understand it. This is how they work. And I don't care who formulates one, the formulation is the same. It's higher pH than a normal soap. True or false, Marty?
Yeah, true.
That's true. 100% of the time, that is true. Doesn't matter who builds it. I heard this story where somebody's like, it was this guy's life work to build this, touch-free product. And I go, great. Doesn't cause any problems. I said, it'll mark up trim if it's left to dry. No, it won't. In that group over the weekend, somebody sent me a post and goes, what's wrong with this person's trim? I go, did you read the post? Yeah, I mean, he used this product. I said, that's a high pH product. Well, everybody in it, I said, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with what that product did. That guy let the product dwell on his trim too long and it marked up the trim because it's a high pH cleaner. So, guys, when you see this kind of stuff, there is nothing wrong with a high pH cleaner. Snow foam, as this guy said in your post. But you have to understand there's risk to it. If you have, like, I'll say this, if you have trim that's kind of iffy, Toyota's really synonymous. Honda would be synonymous with this. Some Jeep products would be synonymous with this. If you have real sensitive, porous black trim and you use a high pH soap and you let it dry at all, it's going to mark the trim up. I don't care who makes the product. It just doesn't matter because those things are susceptible to be marked up. I mean, they could be marked up just by a rough rain, that has a little bit of acidity in it. You know what I mean? Like, so when you go high pH chemical, there's only one way to dissolve dirt without touching the surface, and that's high pH. It's a great thing. You always discuss with people the damage we see in the car wash world. I would say, unless you think I'm wrong on this, 90% of the damage we see in the car wash world is not from acidic cleaners, it's from high pH cleaners. Okay? So people have this weird thing where they believe stuff on the internet, which I understand, but they believe some companies solved what dissolves dirt. What dissolves dirt the best is a high pH cleaner. So your touch-free whatever product you're using is not marketably safer than somebody else's high pH cleaner. It doesn't work that way, in my opinion.
Well, here's another terminology as we go into the last kind of discussion point, which I think is very interesting. Very interesting. Something I think I've dealt with. I think a lot of us have dealt with collecting money from somebody, and there was a term that was used: a high-end customer,
Yeah,
and that's kind of where I wanted to start. There's a perception of high end that high end are a certain way, right? And they're going to be this way. And if you're high end, you would never do this, this, and this, right? Like, and you can fill
good
in those
point.
blanks of whatever it is. Uh, I think as I've progressed in business, not everybody that I know that has money, I'm going to call them to be a high end person. Not everybody that
Agreed.
doesn't have money doesn't mean that they aren't a high end person. I think
Agreed.
that there's qualifications about a high end customer might not always translate to being the most honest is a tough word to say, but if you've been shorted, you feel that somebody's dishonest, right? Like I know a guy, that had it was over $20,000. Uh, Two locations that we were taking care of. His debt was over $20,000 with me and still wanted me to service his account with more chemicals,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Notorious for slow paying me, notorious for stretching it out. We're now 60 plus days. And I I know that this guy is looked on from the other people in the association, the other owners that I dealt with. They all valued him as an owner and what he did, and he worked at the association. They talked about how great he was in his local community, of what that might mean. But
Yep.
the thing that they always knew about him, horrific at paying his bills. Horrific.
Yeah,
They
it's amazing how
always
they
talked about
overlook that. Yeah.
there are some
The
people that just they never are good at that.
Yes. For some people, they actually aren't really trying to do it on purpose. They're just not hyper organized. You've run across that. There's this other subset of people that part of the way they manage the cash flow in their business in a way that they believe is smart is they drag out the bills. So that's more times they can turn their money before they pay the bill that they owe from that month, right? So let's say somebody buys $10,000 worth of your services in January, and then they buy 10,000 in February, but they don't pay you for January until March. They believe I've flipped all of my business multiple times before I ever paid what I owed in January. Therefore, I'm running a more successful business. It's actually a business philosophy of some people, which sounds like the guy you're talking about. He was a notorious slow pay because he could continue to make more money before he ever paid the money he owed from 30, 60, 90 days ago. So when I look at this, and we had a great post, a very well thought out question in the group talking about how do you handle customers who essentially have been a good customer, then they start to have payment issues. How would I handle it? How would we handle it? How would people out there who've run into this handle it? And I've had to handle it multiple ways. I think first and foremost, it's all about the risk you're willing to take, right? And you and I have dealt with this, separately and together in business. Is that you have to be able to identify, number one, is this person likely to walk out on the bill altogether? Like if you go to a massive large dealership and that's your big customer, high-end customer you're talking about in this instance, they're not going to pick up and move the dealership most likely. So they're there, they've been in the city for 25 years. You may say it's pretty low risk, they're not going to pay you. They may continue to slow pay you, but they're probably not going to pick up at midnight on a Tuesday and close the dealership that's been around for 25 years. Could happen, but on the risk meter, it's pretty low. When you're talking about dealing with individuals, which is what a lot of us do, and you have a big customer and they are high end in the kind of cars you deal with, are they willing to stiff you? Has to be, meaning permanently. You have to think about that when they become a slow pay. Because remember, the only way you're going to get paid is legal action at that point, and most of us are not going to take legal action on these bills because an attorney or whatever would cost a lot of money over what the bill may be. But you do have to first assess the risk factor. Is this person going to pick up and move at midnight? You got to think about that first.
And I agreed. And I didn't want to get caught up on the high end, but as we're talking terminology, there's a lot of people that think, right. They think one way about a person, but you're right. Great explaining the different ways that a business owner or what somebody could think about processing their payments. That's true. You feel for the guy that makes the post, right? Like Ryan makes the post. You feel for him, and I don't know if there's a way that we could talk to people of how to see or sense when to know if
Yeah, it's
somebody is
tough.
going to be shady, right? Like there's
Tough.
the part that I wish that when, people will go like, "Hey, if you could help out," like there's a part I wish that we could help out on. Like I wish you could help somebody know what to look for, signs, or I wish you could say, "Hey, if somebody stiffs this amount, don't go further." But
That's
you
really
mentioned
hard.
why
That's
some people do it, or maybe
that's
they
really hard.
mistakenly do it. What about the mistakenly people, right? Do you allow them to just keep making mistakes? I,
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, so let's talk about some things I've had to do. First and foremost, I have had to cut people off. You've had to cut people off. I mean, you and I did business with a dealership in Tulsa years ago that you and I had to look at the not only how long it was taking the dealership to pay us for our chemicals and some different things that we provided aside from that. We also had to say, do we want to stay in business with them? Is this worth it? So you got to make that calculation. And this is what you mean by we can't make blanket statements. It's really tough sometimes. Hey, man, if this person's really important for you paying your bills and keeping your business alive, guess what? You can't cut them off. I've been there. You've been there. Like, so if that's the position you're in, let me tell you what, you need to start getting really good at getting your money because the last thing you want to do is sink your business. And there's a lot of people listening that may have either been in that position or you're in that position right now. Take it from me. You can't cut the person off. They're too
No.
big. They're too big
Yeah.
for your business. So now you identify that. And the first thing you say is, I'm never going to get in this position again, which I think you and I have had to say to ourselves in business over the years. And so you start to make where this, you're not so dependent on this person and this company. So, first and foremost, you can walk away. You can say, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm out. Pay me the money you owe. Also, when you say you're out, you need to be ready to not get your money.
Yeah, how many times did that take you? Because you're right. I kind of think of this, mostly because I don't have a lot of accounts on the detailing side where people didn't pay me, and I went back and kept going. Right, like that's why I think my kind of heart went to Ryan on this because he said he went back what 5 times the
Yep.
last within the last 5 most recent services provided, the client has not paid on time. And I just like chemicals, I always had to keep going back because you're right. Like I've got investment into that. I didn't time though, when I was young, I didn't value time the way I value time now. And like I wouldn't I wouldn't keep going. Like I didn't keep going back. I didn't value it the way you guys are saying, the way he's saying. Like I just went, hey, listen, you're not going to pay me. I'm not coming back. Like
Yep.
I didn't think about it the way you're thinking about it. I just would
Yeah.
cut them off. Like you're not paying
Yeah,
me.
and then
Like
by the
hey,
way,
dude, I'm not playing
that's
this
a
game.
valuable thing to do as well. If you but when you're running a detailing service, number 1, it's not easy to replace people that may be giving you lots of business, okay? The way it is, how you're talking, you had these other accounts moving a lot of chemicals. This was one of 10. You may, as a detailer, only have 1 massive account, 2 massive accounts that you're doing lots of work for. So services are different than products in that way. And so that we do need to specify, like how you said, you're like, I just didn't have that on the detailing side. At this point in time, almost all my clients I bill 30 days. So I don't have very many clients left in my detailing business that ever pay us the day of, a week later, 2 weeks later. Everybody gets billed at the end of the month and they got 30 days to pay. So my business runs totally how your chemical business locally used to run, which is everybody got 30 days, right? So when you look at it, I have had people where I've been in Ryan's situation, I've had to go back multiple times, and here's the only thing I can provide of the mistakes I made and how I made it work once I learned. After the second time someone's made me chase their money, I would get really, really blunt with the payments are becoming an issue. I'm not sure why. Make sure you preface that. I don't know why they're becoming an issue. I don't want to presume anything. So I still have this client today who I would have to chase checks down all the time. And I mean, I did this for the better part of probably 5 years, not 5 minutes. Okay. And I finally talked to the guy and I go, hey, man, I don't know if it's somebody in your office. I get it. You have people that cut checks. It's become a problem. He kind of plays the I didn't know, which I knew was
Have
BS.
you had to sit in an office and wait for the guy because the
Sure.
guy didn't know, the guy's not there, the
Yeah.
girl
All that.
couldn't, and then the wife and the other people there couldn't do anything,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
just have to keep
Matter
waiting.
of fact, what's funny about that is all of a sudden, all of these people have no responsibility in the building, yet they all get a paycheck. You go, so wait a minute. None of you know anything about this business, but you work here. That seems odd. Yeah, I have had that experience.
I had a guy like, and then he shows up, and this was a body shop, uh, and once he showed up, I didn't even wait for him to come in. I walked out and,
Yeah, I've
well,
been
what are
there.
you doing here? Well, Chris,
You owe me a
need
lot of
my
money.
money.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, what do you mean? What do I mean, Chris? This happens every time. Like, come on,
Yeah.
my
It's
guy.
all
Like,
it's like and I say when you try to collect money, you really, really start to understand that movie Groundhog Day. Like, when you try to collect money from people that are slow payers, they act like every
Mhm.
day's Groundhog Day, like it's all brand new, like they've never been late on a bill, they've never paid you late, they don't pay the other 50 vendors late, they pay people late. So, this
Then you
person
get
I
the,
dealt
well,
with the
what
fir
email did you send it to?
yeah, 100
Don't
yeah,
start
yeah, that
that.
was the best.
You don't
Yeah.
start that.
Yeah, I CC'd 1,000 people in your building. Somebody knew. So I dealt with it for a better part of 5 years with this person. Today, that person is required to keep a credit card on file. Now, I still do all the service throughout the month. They don't have to pay me every time we're out there. But at the end of the month, come the first of next month, he doesn't get 30 days to pay technically, right? He's paying on the first, second, third, whatever that Monday is, or whatever that Wednesday after the 30th or 31st that the first hits. He gets 30 days of service, but he doesn't get 30 days to pay because I have the credit card, and all my credit cards for people that have them on file get run at the first of the month. So that is how I would tell people is the only way I've ever had it work when I wanted to put a stop to somebody not being a slow pay. It's 2025. If you run a business, there's a 99% chance you have an Amex. So I actually say American Express. Hey, man, we're having trouble getting paid by check. Do you have a business American Express card or a personal Amex that you pay your bills on that we can keep on file and we can bill you at the end of every month or the first of next month after the month's over? That's the only way I found to get a slow payer to not be a slow payer anymore. Because if they're slow with a check, I've never really been able to reverse the behavior that's ingrained in how they run their business when it comes to a check getting it in the mail, etc.
All right. So he asked a question. He says, is the business owner at fault for not setting proper boundaries up front? Would you fire the client? Right. We talked about the fire the client, but is it the business owner's fault? And I want to kind of, I specifically asked that based off of what you just said, right? Like, who is at fault? How long does a customer stay with the business if that customer is notoriously slow paying? That's the kind of, I think, the question I would ask back about that. Like, I think thinking of people that, this Chris guy, then that car wash owner that was down in Oklahoma City, uh, those guys, they always had a problem. And then the problem always becomes the problem that then has the reason why right?
Yep.
And so you go, huh, I wonder if that is a red flag, like common thing that we should start to go, it's okay. I don't want to say there's somebody at fault here because I still valued, I still appreciated Chris's business, the other guy's business. I still valued what I was doing for them in the moment. It was still a good transaction, except that I had to go hunt my money after the service,
Yeah.
right? Or sorry,
So
after I dropped off,
yeah,
right? Like,
let's do what you should do in this instance. Number one, if you can't get them on a credit card, to your point, and now you're saying whose fault is it? I don't think that's very valuable to think about. You're in the situation that you're in. You either got to say, I'm going to stay in the situation, but I'm going to start to figure it out. The first thing I would do, and you and I had this conversation about a large account that we were talking about, the dealership you and I had. We either need to raise our price to account for how long it's taking to get our money. So the cost of money and what it's costing me to float this account, if you don't have that figured into what you charge a slow payer, you already lose. You already lose. So let's say you do a $100 service for somebody and most of your clients pay you immediately. Your cost of money is nothing because you're not floating them any money. If you say most of my customers, I'm cool with 30-day terms, okay? In your pricing, you should be figuring in the cost of financing them for that 30-day wait on your money. People don't do that. So that enters in problem number one. What happens now if a guy shows me that he takes 60 days to pay? You got to factor that in what he pays for the service. Because you go, okay, I'm cool keeping this guy around, which is what you're saying. I was okay doing money business with Chris. It was a headache. But you go, I usually have to drive to his place twice. I have to wait 60 days on his money instead of 30. So now I'm doing the math of, does he get a 25% increase? Does he get a 35% increase? Does he get a 10% increase? Because if you don't factor that in, it makes the account even worth less because of the cost of money that you floated out there. And for a guy like me, my team members are getting paid. my trucks and the expenses of running the trucks has already been paid. So every day that I don't get paid, I am financing the money, so to speak. It's like a bad bank loan, right? It's like you got to think about you're lending this customer money. When you give somebody terms, you're lending them money.
Mhm.
So nobody's going to lend somebody. Let's just say you have a $10,000 bill every month with this customer that Ryan's talking about. You wouldn't just go, "Hey, I'm going to give this guy 10 grand and ask for no interest." That isn't. So let's say commercial paper or commercial interest right now is 7.5%. I got to figure at least 7.5% just to finance 10 grand. That's what it is in the real world. So you got to start thinking about these things. And that's where I think you can make customers more worth it or less worth it. If I know I'm charging this guy, yes, he's a bad payer, but he pays in somewhere between 45 and 60 days. It's not optimum, but I can somehow charge him 40% over what I charge everyone else. I'm getting a pretty good deal. And everybody goes, right now is probably thinking to himself, no, I don't. It's like, no, you do. Because you're making 45% on your money because you raise his price. So your $100 service is now $145. And so can you make it worth it? Absolutely. But you can't put your head in the sand and go, I'm going to give this guy a price break, plus I'm going to finance the money, plus I'm going to let him be a slow pay. Plus, that is
Yeah.
where
Mhm.
these accounts eat people alive. And I think Ryan, going back 5 times, and he wrote this so well and told all of us what it is, and we've all experienced things like this. A, you can always fire somebody. You can always walk away. Okay. B, you can always tip the scale in your favor as well. You can make this work for you. But you also have to realize that if you give somebody 30 days, any business gives somebody 30 days, you may have a chance of never getting paid. And those are the things that people don't talk about, right? Which is every customer I give 30 days, they could just decide not to pay me ever. They could walk away and never pay me. It could happen tomorrow.
And that's where we ask the question about firing them. Should you fire them? I think we all get to the point of when we can all go. There's this one guy, right?
Yeah,
I
I
think
got that.
most of them, these people are just going to fall away. It's how long do you want to keep them? Like how
And
long do
again, it
you
goes
want
back
to
to
put up with it?
what is the position your business is in.
Yeah.
You know, if this guy is technically floating 40% of your business, you got to eat it, man. Otherwise, 40% of your business is gone overnight. That's pretty hard for a lot of us to take. And by the way, I've been in those situations. Just so everybody knows, I'm not saying this out of judgment. I've been there. I've been where I have two big customers, and if one of them were to go, it'd be like, man, we'd be hurting. So you work yourself to not be in. Once you identify that, you work yourself to never be in that situation again. But if you're in that situation at the moment, it's not so easy to walk away. I mean,
Oh,
and
agreed.
sometimes it's not
Yeah.
the right financial decision to walk away. You just got to work through it. You got to say, let me figure out this. Let me try this. What I have found, and you shared the story with the body shop owner named Chris, if I can get face to face with somebody, they're not going to not pay.
Yep.
Okay. So if you're having trouble getting money, and I know Brian talks to me a lot about this, there's a lot of guys getting too comfortable with the text message.
Ah, great point. Great point.
Okay. And I want everybody to understand this. When somebody owes you money, there's very few men, just from an ego standpoint, will have you stand in front of them, say, you owe me $10,000, and that guy not give you something. Very few guys will just blow you off to your face. So if you're trying to collect and it's phone calls and it's emails and it's text messages, they're going to blow you off. Now you got to get face to face with this person. If that person blows you off and gives you nothing in person, I don't think you have any choice but to walk away. I've never run into somebody that blew me off face to face when they owed me money.
Mm-hmm.
I got a check, I got a
Mm-hmm.
credit card on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these guys had cash in their drawer. I got the money. So the caveat to this is how confident are you in yourself to go have a really, really uncomfortable face-to-face meeting? And if you're not comfortable, you shouldn't give anybody terms, because sometimes you're only going to collect. You got to take it like a bail bondsman. You're only going to collect if you find the guy. And when you find the guy, you better feel real comfortable with a really uncomfortable conversation. And there's some of it that's going to escalate, especially if it's enough money.
and
Like,
and
and
from
these are just some uncomfortable things we have to say out loud.
and in those conversations, if you, I think to me, if you get to that point, having to have those conversations face to face, which you should, realize that the next steps, they're probably not going to go in a good direction for you. Like
Yeah, you're
they
probably
should,
done.
yeah, probably done. Like
If
that
if
was
they
for me, right? Both of the
if you confront somebody to their face and they do not pay you, or they get hostile or whatever it is, if you don't get your money, I think at that point, face to face, you're done. That I don't think that person can ever be recovered.
agreed, agreed. And I guess let me spell it out a little further. I'm just batting 100% on by the time I have to have the conversations, that's where I know that this guy's not going to be around. And sure enough, the next time I have to have the conversations with the assistant or with somebody else, and then we just don't ever get any more orders, right? Like you just go,
Yeah.
damn it. Like, I put up
Yeah,
with the
but,
guy for
when
this
you
amount.
come from a detailing, and I've had this conversation a lot, in the past few years with guys in our network. Something happens when, somebody calls you and normally thinks you're coming out there to take care of a lot of their cars, and you go, "Hey, man, we gotta settle up on the bill before I come out." It's okay to do that. It's okay to say, "Hey, man, we gotta settle up on the bill before I travel out there again. I apologize, but the bill's past due. I gotta protect my business." I think that's something a lot of us are nervous to do, but it's okay to go, "Hey, man, I won't come out and service your cars until I get the bill up to date, till right now, literally till, everything you owe me until today." That may be why you could see guys let bills get out of control. So let's say I am comfortable going 60 days without payment, which means I've provided 60 days with service. On that 61st day, that guy calls me and goes, "Hey, man, I need my whole, car collection detailed." That's the moment I'm probably going, "Awesome." Whether that's text and that's how you communicate. If you feel comfortable, pick up the phone at this point and go, "Hey, man, would love to come take care of your cars. Need to bring the bill up to date before we come out there." That's a very fine thing to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. And that will tell you if that person's there for the long term, usually. Because
Yeah.
if they don't pay you right there to get you to service the cars,
Mhm.
then you
Mhm.
probably know, I'm done with this client, but now I'm going to have to go face to face and collect my 60 days worth of money, but I'm collecting it for the last time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ryan, we feel for you and we feel for anybody else that's been in that
And by the
situation.
way, Ryan, thank you so much
Uh,
for agreeing to let us
very much.
share this,
Yeah.
and writing such a thoughtful post in the specialist group that allows all of us to learn from this, because look, it's something I don't think about every day anymore, but it's good for me to start going through my customer base and going, okay, what have we been dealing with here? Because I have them. Let me tell you this, man. I want to end the podcast with this on my note. You think the bigger you get, the more this stuff's going to go away? No, you just have a stomach to deal with more, but you deal with it across the board all the time. It's one thing you and I talk about behind the scenes a lot of times is people think they're going to get to this magical place where their business is not a headache. No, it's you become better at dealing with the headaches. You become better at understanding what's a real headache and what's not. You become better at saying that guy will give me my money. He has for the last 5 years. Let me go do. You'll learn more tricks with each customer. So don't think that I don't deal with this. I do deal with it. It's just my stomach is a little bit deeper through all this experience to deal with it. The business has a little bit more money to deal with it, but you always deal with stuff. Always. It never goes away.
Well, as the notorious B.I.G. once said,
Yeah,
mo
more money,
money,
more problems.
no problems. We'll see
All
y'all
right.
next time.
See you guys.